This is Algebra 1. Today we're looking at Lesson 5.6 Standard Form. We've previously talked about slope-intercept form because it shows you two things. It shows you a slope and an intercept, a y-intercept. We briefly introduced point slope form, showed you a point and a slope. This is the third form called standard form. Begins on page 306. Standard form is ax, that means something times x, plus by, that means something times y. Don't think you're going to write the letters a and b. It's just a number value or an integer value, plus by is equal to c, is equal to a different number value. A and B both can't be 0, because if they're both 0, then you're going to get something that doesn't create an equation. We're going to look at instances in a few minutes where one of those will be 0, and that'll create horizontal and vertical lines. But they're both not 0. And again, these are integer values, meaning you're not going to have any fractions in standard form. Most of y'all will appreciate the fact that there are no fractions in it. The bad part about standard form, and the reason we don't learn it first, is because it's just not as useful as slope-intercept form and point-slope form. The first example says, writing a linear equation. Write the standard form of an equation of a line passing through -3, 2 with a slope of -4. So it shows you two things. It shows you a point and it shows you a slope. So you use point slope form. You can make it slope intercept form, but that's more steps. Just write it in the form that's given to you to make it simpler for you. So y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Just like the bell work we did a few minutes ago, plug in each of your values. You're going to plug in -4 in place of m. You're going to plug in the opposite of the x sub 1 and the y sub 1 values. And they take 2 steps to do it here, because it says minus and then it says -3 here. You can just do it in one step and just make that say x plus 3. So notice it says y minus 2, where y's value was, or y sub 1's value was positive 2, it says minus 2. Again, that's because it's the opposite of each of those values. It's cleaned up a little bit better on the next line. Y minus 2 equals -4 times x plus 3. So that's point slope form right there. That would be point slope form. From there, in order to write it in standard form, you want to make it say ax plus by equals c. If we had any fractions, you'd want to eliminate them now. There are no fractions in this one, so that's easy. So what you want to do is you simply distribute -4 to both of these. Again, just like the bell work, -4 times x is -4x, and -4 times 3 is -12. So we're almost to standard form. We have to do 2 more things. You cannot put y and -2 together because they're not like terms. You can't put -4x and -12 together because they're not like terms. So now you got to start moving stuff across that equal sign. Okay. You want both your ax and your by to be on the left side. So they kind of take it for granted that you can get to that on this step right here. In order to do that, you want to move -4x over to the left. -4x acts just like -4x. So in order to cancel it out, you add 4x. If you add it to the right, add it to the left. Notice on the left side, it's positive 4x. Okay. Y is already on the left side. Notice it is positive y already. So it just simply comes down and says plus y. We're going to look at another example in just a second if this is freaking you out. The only other thing you have to do is move -2 over. This is not supposed to be on the left side, so you want to move it over to here. We know how to move -2 over. We add 2. You add it to the left and you add it to the right, just like we did with the blue one, with the purple one with the x value. -12 plus 10 is going to, I said plus 10, I wrote the wrong thing. Plus 2 cancels out -2. Gives you -10. And notice it says adding 4x and 2 to each side gives you 4x plus y equals -10. That is ax plus by. Notice there's no b value shown, so we know that that coefficient is 1, y. equals negative 10. AX plus BY equals negative 10. Again, notice we didn't really do anything with this. We didn't make it into something it wasn't already. We just moved it from one side of the equal sign to the other to create this form, to create standard form. AX plus BY equals C, which in times does show up. Okay, so here's an example that's not on your sheet. On the back, write negative 5x plus 11 equals 1/2 y in standard form with integer coefficients. Now, we didn't have an example that looked just like this a second ago. Get rid of that half y. This says divide by 2. We know how to cancel out divide by 2. Multiply everything by 2. Take about 1 minute. See if you can do just like on this one that we just did a second ago. Take about 1 minute. Okay, let's take a look at this. You don't have to do a whole lot to this one other than getting rid of the fraction, getting rid of the divide by 2, and then moving over what you need to move over. Okay. In order to cancel out that divide by 2, you need to multiply that by 2. This will cancel it out, but you can't just multiply one term in an equation by 2. You have to multiply everything by 2. Unlike addition and subtraction, where you only do it with the like terms, multiplication and division has to be done to everything. So 2 times negative 5x is negative 10x. 2 times positive 11 is positive 22. And then you're left with 1y on that side. Okay. Now, in order to make this standard form, you want to have it say ax plus by equals c. We don't have that. X and y are not on the same side, so right away we definitely don't have that. In fact, what we have up here right now is slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. You can see what the slope is. It's negative 10. And you can see what the b is. It's 22. So you could graph that equation in the form it's in, but that's not what we're making right now. We're making standard form. So in order to do that, you want to move y over to the same side as x. Now, if you moved it over the other way, that's better, but I want to show it the same way like the last example was. That says positive y, so in order to cancel out plus y, you subtract it. If you subtract it on the right, you subtract it on the left. Now, there's no y's to subtract by on the left. So just like anything else, when you can't add or subtract it, all you can do is write it next to the other ones. In the same line, though, so we don't have to waste a step, we want to make it say equals c on the opposite side. So that says plus 22. We'll subtract 22 on that side. If you subtract it on the left, subtract it on the right. I know we got a lot going on right now. It's going to get cleaned up in just a second. So what we have is the x term first. Negative 10x. We didn't fool with the x term. It stays right where it is. Negative 10x. The y came over. Minus y equals, the 22 went over to the right. It was positive. It becomes negative. Now this is almost standard form, because if you can see, it says ax, there's your a value, plus by equals c, where your b value would be negative 1 right here. It's not shown. The only thing that you have to change about this to make it standard form is you don't want your coefficient for x to be a negative number. So if And like I said a minute ago, if you moved it to the other side, you'd have been better. I just wanted to keep it all consistent. You want to move everything over to the opposite sides. So you want to move all of this over here and all of this over here. So all you're basically doing, making it real simple, is you're switching all of the signs. So when you do that, you have 10x is positive plus y equals 22. Notice now they're all positive. And you made standard form ax plus by equals c. Because 1 is equal to 1. Remember, it doesn't matter what order the things are in. Like, you can, if something said 1/2 x plus 3 equals y, you can read that as y equals 1/2 x plus 3. 10x plus y would equal 22. Now it looks a lot better, and it's standard form. And I know going back and forth might have been a little confusing right there. But all you want to do is you want to make sure that a's value is positive. 10x plus y equals 22. Let's try on one more real quick. This one says write the standard form of the equation passing through that point with a slope of 3/4. Remember, now you're given a point and a slope. So write it in point slope form. Take about 1 minute. See if you can do that. Remember, your x sub 1 and your y sub 1 values are the opposite of what's shown when you plug them in because of the minuses. Okay, I stopped you just short of a minute right there. Just want to make sure that you understand the other part of writing in its standard form. Remember, it's going to say y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Those are going to be the values we're going to plug in. Y minus y sub 1, that's this one. It's the opposite of what that shows. So that says minus 1 equals m's value is going to stay just like it is, 3/4. That one doesn't change, m. And then your x sub 1 value, this one is the opposite of that one. So it says minus, so you're going to write plus 5. From here, that's point slope form, but that's not what we're trying to write now. We're past that. We're trying to write standard form. Ax plus by equals c. It can't have fractions. So on the next step, eliminate the fraction. So get rid of 4 times, or get rid of this divide by 4 right here. Multiply this term by 4. That will multiply the whole side by 4. Multiply this by 4 and this by 4. That'll give you 4y minus 4 equals, this will cancel out, 3 times x plus 5. Now it looks a whole lot easier. Distribute the 3 and move over whatever you have to move over to make it say ax plus by equals c. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 5 is plus 15. So we have 4y minus 4 equals 3x plus 15. So you can kind of eliminate that whole mess that we did on the last example with bringing everything to the left and then having to switch it all back over to the right. If 3x is already positive, if this is already positive, leave your ax on that side. I know that looks a little bit confusing. Bring your by over to that same side. So it says 4y. So if you want to bring the whole thing over, so move that one over. Move the positive 4y over by subtracting 4y. If you subtracted there, subtracted here. And since you're moving that over to the right side to make it say 3x minus 4y, Move the positive 15 over to the left side by subtracting it on the right and subtracting it here. Negative 4 minus 15 is negative 19. So I know this is backwards, but it says ax plus by equals c. 3x minus 4y equals negative 19 is your standard form. And we'll pick up with example number 2 tomorrow.